Welcome to Talk the Plank, the podcast where real pirates share real stories. I'm Kendra Wallace, and this is our very first episode of Talk the Plank for Crandall High School. And we're kicking it off with things with someone who helps steer our ship here at Crandall High School, our very own principal, Mr. Melms. So welcome.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Okay, so today we're going to kind of go beyond like the morning greetings, the announcements, the long emails, and we're going to kind of hear your story, your vision, and kind of why you got here at Crandall High School, how you graduated college. Where'd you go to college at?
Dallas Baptist.
Okay, a little patriot action there.
That's right.
So tell me just a little bit about like you, like your family.
Sure.
Personal.
Yeah, I've been married for 23 years, so got married kind of young, and we have 3 kids, all grown. My youngest is 19, all either out of the house or working on getting out of the house, and they're all doing various things. I couldn't have 3 more, different kids. They kind of match us in personality, but they all do their own things differently. And my wife's a nurse, and we're enjoying our empty nest life right now.
Yeah, you like going hiking. I know you guys enjoy going hiking after work and stuff. So a little bit about your principal trip. How did that come to be?
Yeah, so it's actually interesting because I started, I went to the military. I wasn't sure what I was going to do for school, and then I ended up feeling called to be a teacher and a coach, and I really just wanted to coach, to be honest with you. If I was being selfish, I just wanted to be a coach, and then I started teaching in DeSoto, and kind of when I was there, I kind of got good at teaching. I was a good coach also, but as I was kind of hanging out watching the kids, I realized it's not fun. School's not fun. And like when I remember going to high school, it was fun. We did all kinds of activities. There's posters everywhere, clubs, all the things. And the school I was at, that wasn't like that. And so I just felt like I could do this better, and I don't want to complain. So I just wanted to change things. And so I went back to school to get my master's to see kind of what I could do in that world. And here I am. And so I kind of got that way, and that's how I got into administration, at least.
What were you like in high school?
I was the smart kid that's goofy. I wasn't Shelton Gibbs or valedictorian, anything like that. But I was in honor classes and stuff like that. But I just kind of goofy, and I played sports, and surprisingly enough, I got in trouble from time to time with dress code myself.
Wow, you wore them hoodies to school.
That's right.
So looking back at high school, was there a particular teacher that you felt like really motivated you and like kind of helped you to stay on track to finish? Because we know it's hard, especially like junior year. You kind of get to where you're just ready to be done. And man, senior year's hard sometimes. Senioritis kicks in. So was there a teacher that kind of helped push you to stay strong, finish?
I wouldn't say that necessarily, just only because I think back when we went to high school, it was just normal. I mean, yes, there was senioritis, but we drove and finished, and I think our parents kind of drove. And
there was no early graduating when we went to school.
Yes.
So.
And it was just part of the process. You just did it, But what I will say is I had a coach in high school that kind of really drove my work ethic, and his name was Coach Franz, and he was my 9th grade basketball coach. And so I wasn't particularly good at basketball, but I worked really hard, and I got moved up on different teams. And Coach Franz one day stopped practice. I remember stopping practice, and we were doing something wrong or whatever, and he hollered at the whole team. He goes, "If everybody worked as hard as Melms did, then our team would be a whole lot better," or whatever. And so it was kind of from that point forward that I just never forgot that, and realized that hard work makes a huge difference. Like I really probably shouldn't have been on the AE basketball team, but I was because I worked hard,
right.
So
which is what we teach our kids a lot of times too.
Right.
What do you feel is like probably the hardest thing you do as a principal?
I think it's really getting everybody to understand all the things, all the nuances of school, right? So getting parents to understand the importance of students coming to school and being here, and the implications of a student not being in school, getting parents and students to understand that, even teachers to understand the dress code. Why do we have to enforce the dress code? There's so many nuances behind every rule that we have that it's so hard it would take days of training and all that to explain, hey, we have a certain dress code for safety reasons. It really is geared towards making sure students are protected, that we can identify every student very quickly. IDs are really for reunification. Like if something happens and we have a crisis, the students need to have their IDs, because if mom wants to come get their kid in a crisis, the mom has to have an ID, the student has to have an ID, and the student doesn't have an ID. Now all of a sudden we have to go through all these layers and chains, and it could be hours before you get your kid back, and you're panicking. And so there's just these these little nuances, and we just don't have time to explain them all. And so we're in a society
that world
now.
of like where like unless you do it, you don't understand it,
Right,
you know?
yeah,
and so it's like we always hear the thing too of like if everybody could substitute for a day,
Yes,
you would understand. And so it's like this whole teacher world, that educator world that sometimes only we understand. And that's it's so funny when you're trying to explain stuff to people that don't do it. You're like, no, you don't understand. I promise. Like if you did it for one day, you would understand. And so,
and I think too, when there's a disagreement about things, I think a lot of times, people, parents, society, community, even media, whoever thinks that we're anti-student at some point. And I think that's the farthest thing from the truth. Anybody that does what we do for a long time, we love kids, like we love students, and everything we do is in the best interest of the students. We may not even agree with every single thing that happens, but we're doing everything for the betterment of that student to give them the best opportunity as possible. And oftentimes when a parent or, like I said, somebody in the community, even a student doesn't agree, they think it's a personal thing, and it's not. We're just trying to guide them,
Yeah. So, obviously we know that you deal with a lot of backlash, negativity, like that's just kind of comes with your role. That's one of those things I think is a given, but there are also good times and positive things. So how do you stay motivated? How do you keep yourself to not let the negativity impact you?
Well, I think by nature, I'm a positive person. But I also think that, at the end of the day, I know the purpose behind what we do. Right. And so, it's kind of like, you ever heard that somebody say, how do you sleep at night? Like I sleep fine at night because I know that everything that we do
with my fan blowing in the cold.
Right, that's right. But I do everything that we do here, we know it's in the best interest of the kids. And so even when somebody is upset, I just chalk it up for somebody advocating for their child, somebody advocating for the school. Right. And I get it. Like I'm a parent. And so, I want to fight for my kids at the same time. But I know at the end of the day, that parent or that person or whoever that's upset, the student is just trying to advocate for themselves or advocate for others. And the reality is sometimes we hit an impasse and it just doesn't work out in both people's favor. But I know that the decisions that I make every day, the thousands of decisions I make throughout the school year are all based on the right and grounded in the right things and the right purposes. And so that makes it easier for me to just deal with those things and let it go pretty quickly. So.
Well, I know just like being here on campus and working, like obviously like people love how personable you are with the students, like, greeting them at the front doors or in the cafeteria. Like we obviously talk about that. I mean, educators, we talk. So, right. Teachers, we gossip a little bit. But we obviously know that that's really like a very huge part of what you do. So looking at like students, like I know you're at Ennis. What other schools have you been at?
I was in Grand Prairie for 7 years, various schools there.
And then you taught at
Midlothian and DeSoto.
Yeah. Yep. So I know you've been several places, but looking at students, has there ever been one student that just really impacted you that you will not ever forget them? And like, why? What happened?
I think every student impacts me. I mean, it's a very political answer, right? Every student impacts me to some level of degree, but no, there was one student, her name was Madison. And my very first year teaching, I remember that she was one of my best students by far. She probably could have taught the class that I was teaching, and she just...
Wait, what did you teach? Math, right?
I taught math, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
This year, that particular year, I was teaching Algebra 1, and she probably could have taught it. I mean, she was that in with it, and but she struggled to take tests. And so for me, who I'd never really struggled with those kinds of things in school, it was a real eye-opener to realize that, just because we're super smart doesn't mean that testing is easy, because there is anxiety that goes with that. There's overthinking. There's all the things, especially when you put a lot of pressure on yourself. And so that helped tremendously for me to understand the other sides of students that I wasn't as a student, to be able to see that there's difficulties for every student, good, bad, otherwise, that I could help support throughout my career.
Yeah. Sometimes I think that being a parent also helps you see those things, because like you were saying, you have 3 kids and they're all different, all doing different things. I have 2 and they're completely opposite. I have the one that he could go in and take a test without even trying. And then I have my daughter who is one of those struggling testers. And so it's cool to see how even as educators, we have to balance that in the classroom. And that's one of those things that goes into like, you don't know unless you're having to do it. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes that's hard to do. Yes. But what do you think is your favorite thing about being a principal besides interacting with the kids? What's your favorite thing?
I think leadership can be something that's grown and built, but I think we are all, God-given talent to leadership sometimes. And so I like the leadership aspect of it. I like the problem-solving aspect. But the most important thing to me, it's the top of that school where you get to leadership and problem solve and teach, but you still get to interact with kids. And so my biggest fear is, people ask me all the time, are you going to take a district level job? Are you going to go to central office? Do I want to be a superintendent? Those kinds of things. And to me, I don't want to be that far away from kids. Like, I want to be in a building where I get to high five a kid every day. And so if I'm a superintendent, I'd have to come and drive to a school and do that, which I would, but it's a lot more intentionality.
A lot of that's a question a lot of times is like, oh, well, how long are you going to stay in the classroom? Like, if you love it, it's hard to even answer that question. Yeah. It's like, well, I don't really see myself doing anything else. And so obviously, the Texas education right now is taking a pretty, I don't know if you want to say hit or not, depends on your view on it, but with the vouchers,
right?
Yeah. How do you see the future of education?
It's hard to answer that question because I'm in education and I feel like I'm educated in education. But I feel like the people who make all the decisions aren't necessarily sitting in the same seats that we are or see the same things that we do. I'd like to believe that as the funding gets more oversight, so to speak, that they start maybe doing more specialized schools, creating districts of opportunity to where, when you go into Crandall ISD, your kids have a lot of options.
Well, I was going to say, I feel like Crandall High School, like our CTE, obviously that's what I teach, but our CTE department is so huge here, and it's feel like it's building and it's growing. And for me, that's when I look at the future of education. Like, obviously we know like English and math and those things are really important because you can't do stuff without those. But CTE is one of those career path options that is just really growing.
Well, and if you look globally at education, kids go to school basically in a lot of areas, kids will go to school till they're 14 and then they choose a pathway, and I think the United States, Texas is getting towards that. We have these CTE pathways that they start identifying in 8th and 9th grade. And so what happens is they start to go to these pathways. What I think that I would hope the future of education, public education would be is that you may have, like Canada has a traditional, they call it university or something like that, but it's really just traditional high school. But then they have these off subsets. And so like you have an entire school geared towards AV, geared towards publication, all that arts and media and stuff like that. You've got all these other schools that are geared towards construction and maintenance and things. And so ideally I would love to come back to Crandall in 20, 30 years from now, and my kid can go to one of 3 different high schools, and the 3 different high schools aren't because there are 3 different big high schools. It's that one high school is traditional, one high school is CTE bound, one high school is, health and science bound. And, some of those districts like Plano has a lot of these things as well, where the education it looks different in the building than a traditional education.
We're growing so rapidly out here. Like, that's another thing is like growth, I feel like has hit our school. Obviously, like we have the freshman center and now the freshmen are coming back. And then there's talk that, then that middle school will only be a middle school for so long. So like, how do you feel like dealing with the growth, like getting new kids in almost every day?
I think it's great. I think it's great because one of the things is a lot of times, especially a community like ours, parents are looking for a change, right? Mm-hmm. And so for their student. And I think that's great. I think when a parent makes that decision and sacrifice to move their student to another school district that they feel like will help their student better, give them more opportunities to succeed, I think that's awesome parenting, number one. But number two, it also gives the kids the opportunity to have a second chance, right? Yeah. And so I know that I didn't move in high school, but my son moved in high school a couple times due to my job, obviously. And he got to go into high school each time that he went in there and just let go of what happened in the past. So like some students get to come from a bad environment or bad decision making and they get to start over. Mm. I know we have an athlete that's here from another school district that when he transferred in, I'm looking at his records. I'm like, oh, great. This is a kid that I'm gonna have to keep my eye on because, he had some issues and he's been a model student because I think he just needed a change in an environment. So to me, the growth is great. The opportunities that we provide. Here's the thing. I'm also, you guys know me very well, or you know me very well, that I also believe I'm the best principal. And so and we have the best teachers. And so to me, the kids that don't go to school in Crandall are missing out because we have so much to offer. So
great. Okay. So I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions.
Let's go.
And we're going to see how well we can get to know Mr. Melms. You can't cheat. You can't see them.
Not cheating. Let's go.
Okay. Coffee or energy drink?
Energy drink.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Favorite sports team?
Texas Rangers for sure.
Go-to weekday lunch?
Taco Bell. I know it's terrible, but that's what I go. It's terrible.
Dream vacation spot.
Anywhere that has a beach.
One word your staff would use to describe you.
Long-winded.
Yes. First job you ever had?
I was a bagger at a grocery store.
I used to work at Brookshire's. I was a cashier.
Yeah.
Favorite hype song?
I don't really have one. Anything that's got a beat.
I mean, We Are the Champions or something.
Ooh,
I don't know. Okay, if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
I'd like to be invisible.
Because you can listen to people when they talk.
Listen to people. I can get wherever I needed to get to.
These nosy
That's right.
people.
That's right.
Most used app on your phone?
Right now, my health and fitness. I like to track my steps. I like to see how many steps I got.
Did you work out this morning?
I did. Yes, of
Did you eat your
course.
protein bar?
No protein bar. A couple protein shakes though this morning.
Well, I'm really happy that you got to come and just sit down, short and sweet, but we got to know a little bit about you and your vision for Crandall and just our high school. I know I'm appreciative for you. I think you're a great principal. Not just saying that because we're sitting here together, but I enjoy working here. And so thank you for being part of Talk the Plank.
Well, I'm excited for the podcast, man. I think it's going to be great, and the students are going to really kill it. So I appreciate being the honorary first guest.
Yes.
So.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in to Talk the Plank. Next week, we have Talk the Plank with Grant Yates and Mr. Parker. So tune in for the ag department.
Yeah. Awesome.
See you later.